Welcome to Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Watercolor painting is the specialty of Floyd Thomas from Lake Mills, Iowa. We meet him today and get a peek at some of his paintings of the community. We also stop into the Country School Museum in Lake Mills. This old schoolhouse is an excellent example of what country schools were like in the early 20th century. And finally, we visit with Marilyn Hoffman, Mayor David Steffens, and Jeremy Rogstad to learn how Lake Mills has engaged the next generation of leaders in town. Stay tuned for Cities on the Move. Floyd Thomas loves to paint wildlife and his community. Let's take a look at some of his watercolors.
I'm Floyd Thomas. I've lived here in Lake Mills and in the area all my life, which is a long time. Well, I worked for the graphic publishing company, and my job was designing, printing, and so on. And we did have a person that came from, he retired from teaching, and that's where I got my watercolor ambition. He was a very good watercolor artist, and that really intrigued me. Being with John Spellman a lot when he would go out and just paint from, like, out in the country. We have a lake near Lake Mills, Rice Lake, and we'd go out there on the banks and he'd paint that, and it really intrigued me. And the using watercolor seemed like a very comfortable way of painting. So I started then, and that was probably in the 50s. Well, I think it's important to the history, and of course photography does a great part of it, but I think a painting becomes a little more personal. So part of the well, archives, if you will, and that remember what the town looked like, and I do drawings first, and then I transfer the drawing to watercolor paper, because watercolor paper is quite sensitive, and if you do a lot of erasing or changing, that affects the way that watercolor is received in the paper. So I do quite a comprehensive drawing first, and then I transfer it to watercolor paper. Well, the paints are, most of them are transparent, and that gives you a nice effect. And the brushes that I use are very soft, and they might range from 2 inches wide to one way down very, very thin. I used to make all my own Christmas cards, and the company that I worked for was a graphic publishing company, and I'd have them print the cards. And yes, I've sold many paintings. Well, I think through studying other artists, and there's a lot of good books out, and things that you can put on television. I think the more you study, the more you learn different techniques. I love painting because it's relaxing, and one thing about it, when you're painting nature, it really makes you concentrate on small items, and if any wildlife included, you appreciate that part of it. It's a little hard to explain, but it's a self-satisfaction, I guess, of doing something. And other people enjoy it, and that helps your enjoyment also.
Well, today we're visiting with some folks from Lake Mills, Iowa, who have experienced something that many communities in our region have. They've had an indication from a local company that they may be considering downsizing some of their positions in the community, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and these folks are a great demonstration of that, and they're here to tell us a little bit about it. I want to welcome our special guests. We have Mayor David Steffens.
Thank you.
We have Marilyn Hoffman.
Thank you.
And we have Jeremy Rogstad. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
having us.
All right. Marilyn, tell us a little bit about the news that you got about what may take place in the community in terms of some potential job reductions.
Right. Last August, we were, notified that we were going to be having a, reduction of jobs, and at that point, we started looking at what could we do to get more people in our community involved in this process, because we knew that, anybody can be a catalyst for bringing in a new business. So we, two of us had heard a speaker at a conference, so we got a group together. We got financing from the city, from the industry, from our utility, and from a foundation, and we were able to bring in a consultant from Australia.
Wow.
And we were able to start the Lake Mills Vision Team.
Great. Now, Mayor, sometimes these things happen. We have heard about those headlines around the community. What kind of steps does a community take? And we'll talk about the Vision Team activities. I'm really excited to hear about that. But when City Hall hears that, kind of what's the reaction, and what do you do to work with other businesses to perhaps expand, to pick up some of these folks?
Well, Lake Mills has been very proactive when it comes to entertaining new businesses and taking care of the ones we've got. But during this economic downturn that we've had, the towns and the state and the federal have suffered. And there's not a lot of extra money out there to put incentives out to get these things. But we have our own utilities and stuff, and we can make a deal with them that way to make cheaper electricity, maybe cheaper water and sewer, this kind of stuff. Lake Mills has plenty of electricity. It has plenty of water and sewer. Our sewer is only running at 30% capacity. So we can entertain all different kinds of industry, what they call a wet industry. That could be like someone making potato salad or, entrees and stuff like that. Or we can do most anything with our wastewater. But no, Lake Mills is, and we have a very proactive city council and staff, so we're just hoping that everything will work out, and I think it will. I got a very positive attitude, and I think that's what we need.
Great. And it sounds like with some of your strategic planning, positive attitude was one of the critical factors. Yes. Marilyn, tell us a little bit about this Vision Team and the special guest speaker that you brought in all the way from Australia.
Yes. Well, I tell you, he was really good. He held a community meeting where we were able to draw in, many of our community residents. We put together a vision, statement that kind of stated where we want to see ourselves in a few years. And it was a good catalyst to bring in this younger generation like Jeremy and that group, because we need to start bringing that age group in to become our future leaders. It's very important. And we're already seeing a really vibrant group of people stepping up. And, we started an entrepreneur group because, with, the economy, we knew that we have to start our own jobs. It's a proven fact that during recessions, a lot of your Fortune 500 companies are started. So we're hoping that with the entrepreneur group and some of the support that we're trying to give them, that we can encourage people to start their own business. So I'm just waiting to see how this all develops over the next few months.
All right. Now, Jeremy, give us a little bit of your background. How long have you been in Lake Mills, and what attracted you or what caught your attention about this Vision Team?
I'm new back into Lake Mills. We came back about a year ago, and we've had some great experiences with Lake Mills, and we love the community. It's a good community, and when we moved back, we found out what was happening to our town, and a lot of our age group really wasn't getting involved in the city. And Marilyn and Dave Steffens have done a great job of making sure that there's community involvement, but it's always been with the generation that's ahead of us. And so, my wife and I, we saw a need for our age group to start stepping forward and helping them execute what they wanted to see. Because they're right, they're ready to step back where we need to start stepping forward. And we saw this Vision Team, and what I like about it, it's a team. It's a team effort of the community of coming together and creating action teams to implement different ideas, activities into the community to make it a better place, a fun place. Because what we're seeing, I've got 3 children, 1 on the way, and I want to make sure that they have a good life growing up. And the only way to do that is to create opportunity for them.
Now, Marilyn, one of the things that you guys did in this process was kind of an assessment. Kind of had strengths, weaknesses, your little red-blue chart that you did.
Right.
Tell us about some of the strengths that you discovered and some of the weaknesses that maybe are being addressed by some of these vision team committees.
During our meeting, he had questions on the wall, and we had to take little stickers and go put them on, whether we felt we were weak or strong in that area. And education came out very strong. We all know that we support our school, and that's very strong. One of the very weak points was not having a focused attempt to bring the young people into the leadership group, and so that really kind of reinforced what we were already thinking, that we needed to get that. And it was just a very interesting, concept to see that so many of us in the community all felt the same way. Like we felt we weren't supporting our local retailers enough. So, we need a push to start supporting our own local businesses in order to make them successful. So, it just brought a lot of things into focus that a lot of us were thinking, but now we've got it on paper showing, yes, this is what people are thinking. So,
right. Now, Mayor, excuse me, in that planning process, you talked a little bit about kind of consensus building and getting folks on the same page and pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, kind of a can-do attitude of local communities. Tell us a little bit about perhaps how you see Lake Mills changing as a result of this community effort. Do you see more inclusiveness and are people on board? Sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do, is get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, that's for sure. Lake Mills is a Norwegian community, and Norwegians, and I'm a full-blooded one, I have to admit. I've been taking pills for it, but it won't help. But Lake Mills is, it's hard to make a change. But I think that people, and I know I am just extremely happy to hear Jeremy getting involved and the younger generation getting involved. And I'd like to see them getting more of them. Now, we've got a couple of the young people on our city council in their probably late 20s.
30s.
And 30s, but that's good. I was mayor in Lake Mills, 10, 12 years ago, and got voted out. Well, that was fine, because I ran a business and stuff, and I had all kinds of things to do, and then I retired from that. And when I seen Lake Mills going to lose these jobs and stuff, I know a lot of people in a lot of places from my business and from where I have been in the mayor before. And I thought, my wife said, you better put your, and the mayor wasn't going to run, the next mayor, or the ex-mayor. So she said, you better get your light from under the bushel and get back in there. So that is the reason I'm sitting here as mayor. And I'm hoping that we can do something good for the town. And that's my sole goal, is to, and like I say, I'm retired. I had a lot more time to deal with it.
So you guys are good examples of folks who said, I need to help make a difference in my community. Jeremy, are you involved with a specific subcommittee as part of this vision team, or are you on a steering committee? Tell us a little bit about the structure of the vision team and how people might get involved if you've got contemporaries that want to kind of share their 2 cents worth.
Yeah, they're very welcomed. And, we try to accommodate everybody's time, because it's hard to get everybody's schedule together to work and meet. So, for people to get involved, it's fairly simple. They can go to, they can email us at lm.visionteam@hotmail.com, and they're able to contact us. Now, the structure-wise, myself and 2 other people we're on the board of the Lake Mills Vision Team, along with Marilyn, Dave Steffens, and a few others who are ex-affiliates with us. So we work closely with them guys to make sure, because there's groups already in place in Lake Mills, and we don't want to replace them. We want to grow them. Okay.
Sure.
So with us as leaders, we kind of oversee everything, and then there's action teams. Action team leaders below us, and they were voted in by the Lake Mills Vision Team. And these action team leaders lead different action teams in place, and there's 7 of them. We have the entrepreneurial, which Marilyn is involved in. I'm in what's called the activities, so we're creating activities for our family and kids in our area. We've got the wellness community, who's going to make a better place in Lake Mills for different for kids' activities. We've got the youth group. Specific, so they can get involved for different things. We've got it's called the old buildings. People see a passion to make sure the old buildings are up to date, looking nice. People want to bring retail in, they look great when people, you know, the forefront of our town looks nice. We've also got, what other ones?
Culture change.
Culture change. And Dave.
Communications.
Yep, and communications. Dave hit the nail on the head. You know, I'm Norwegian myself. You know, so it's hard to, you know, we look at change like, whoa, let's stop. Let's think about this a little bit.
Yep.
And so we saw a need for cultural change because we take a long time to make decisions. You know, and that's just who we are, and the good part is we understand that. So we actually created a subcommittee. Someone actually in the vision team came up with the idea: if we're going to change, we need a group to say we need to be out helping change. So they go to the coffee shops, the local diner, wherever, and start talking about how we can make these changes and make it easier on ourselves, because change is scary.
It can be,
Yep.
that's for sure.
And then now we've got the communication committee. We call it the CAT team, and they're doing a great job to make sure that everybody's on the same page of what's going on in our community through the Lake Mills Vision team. So it's great to see that growing too, because communication is just going to be the vital part of us growing.
Great. And you know, you have to have people know what's going on
Yeah.
in order for them to participate. Marilyn, what are some of the goals that have been set in this vision team, and how are you going to measure whether or not you've accomplished them? Community involvement, and some of those things are a little bit nebulous, and you can feel it, but you can't always measure it. Do you have some specific things that the vision team wants to accomplish?
I think for the entrepreneurship, you know, we want to start, you know, like getting a fast track class in town to let people take their, you know, get their business plans and things. So that's one of our goals there. You know, and a benchmark would be if we could get, you know, new businesses out of that. You know, how many new events we're getting in town, you know, how we can partner, because, you know, with our board from the Chamber Development, you know, we have a limited time, so it's really nice to have a new group stepping up to help, because you need to have these events to bring people together. A good example was, you know, we have our July Jubilee celebration coming up in July, and we were, you know, struggling with what to do with our beer garden street dances, and a group of the vision team stepped up, and they are going to be taking those over, and that's fantastic because they have big goals of having, you know, another celebration that brings a lot of people in. So that's, you know, it's great because we want people to know that Lake Mills is a good town, a lot of good assets, and hopefully they'll decide to start a business and move there. And we see good things happening, because out of adversity, new leaders come in, and a lot of times the change is good, you know, and we got to keep a positive attitude.
All right. Mayor, what's the goal? What's the big picture?
I would say if we'd be very content if we could get Lake Mills back where it was 5 years ago. And that's going to be real difficult because of the economy and stuff. You know, and we talk about restoring old buildings and stuff like that. Well, I'm on a board that we refurbished our theater. It was falling down. In fact, it did fall down.
Pardon me?
But most of it to the dump, and that's going good. It's paying its way. The same group decided that we had a couple buildings in the same building that we were in, the same complex. That was just, there again, falling down again. And the theater group is a nonprofit thing. So we decided to take that project on, and we're just in the middle of cleaning them out now. And it looks like that's going to fly. We need to get the spirit back in the town. We need a happy town, and that's my goal, is trying to get people feeling better about the town and stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like you have quite a few activities, and so that there is something for everyone, and that you're taking these projects one at a time, which sometimes you have to do. That sounds great. Well, I wish you all the best with your vision team activities, and let's have one more time a contact. You gave an email address. How can they get a hold of you if they're interested in participating in the vision team?
They can email us at lm.visionteam@hotmail.com.
And if you are in a community out there that is similar in size to Lake Mills, or bigger or smaller, doesn't matter, but if you'd like to talk to them about what they are doing and how they've kind of re-energized their community, I'm sure you can email them at that same email address as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today to
thank
share
you for
the
having
story
me.
with us.
Thank you.
And good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Stay
kindly.
tuned for more Cities on the Move. Country schools were quite popular in the last century, and many area residents remember those one-room buildings. The Lake Mills Historical Society found one and has developed an excellent museum as a tribute to all country schools. Let's find out more.
Country schools dotted the landscape in our region from the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s. One-room buildings for 1st through 8th graders fostered a sense of community and cooperative learning. The folks of Lake Mills, Iowa wanted to preserve this heritage, so they established a local historical society and started searching. Society member Helene Iverson explains.
Our historical society was started, I think, in 1998, and it was started always with the idea, let's find a country school and bring it into town. And so there was a little time spent finding a country school, and then when it was found, we almost spent about 2 years finding a location.
Country schools were most popular during the early 20th century.
A country school, we would say, it's just what the name says. It's a school out in the country. And I would say probably as soon as people had settled in an area, they were always interested in having their children educated. It turned out that this where the Burnup School was. There were 9 country schools in that area. And they were built so that perhaps no child would have to walk, or maybe walk about 2 miles would be the most to go to school and get their education. The country schools would be very different from town, depending, of course, maybe on the size of the town. But in this country school, you might stay in this same one room for all 8 years of your education, because they had just grades like 1 through 8. Maybe some schools in the spring would have the future kindergartners come for 6 weeks or something like that. A day in the life of a country school child we'd have to say the teacher was there early and to build the fire in the beginning and to get everything organized. Water would maybe have to be hauled. Maybe some of the older children would do that. Sometimes they were fortunate enough to have a pump right on the school yard, but that wasn't the common way, I don't think. I'm sitting at a recitation bench, and it's here in the front of the room for a reason. The teacher could be sitting at her desk and she would call for the 1st graders to come up for a recitation, and she could keep an eye, of course, on the whole school that way. And I think that the people, if they'd done their homework, they were probably listening to what was going on, and we always said that was a plus for the country school, because you had repetition of these facts that you should be knowing. And I think that, I've taught with teachers who taught in country schools, and they really did sing the praises of those schools.
Country school students were required to pass exams prior to admission to the high schools located in nearby towns.
Teachers had to work very hard because, you know, their reputation would depend on getting these students to pass the test so they could go on to high school. I'll just look at the geography test. Write a paragraph telling why the Central Plains of the United States make a good farming region. And the second question, what has made each of the following cities important? New York, Budapest, Liverpool, Detroit, Rio de Janeiro. The United States exports about $176 million worth of lumber. Sweden exports so much, 87. Russia so much, Poland so much. Show these facts by a graph.
In the restoration of the Burnup Country School, the Historical Society was fortunate to find many authentic pieces from the era.
I would say the school came in really empty as it was moved along. They'd had an auction and sold all of the things that were movable, except the piano has stayed with us all the time. We're happy that many of the things that are in here were actually in the original school. Like the bench that I'm sitting on, that was in this school, and we located it someplace, and or somebody donated it. Also the teacher's desk and bench for her, and several of the desks would have been in this country school too, but have just been donated by different families.
For a special look at the days gone by of education, you can tour the Country School Museum in Lake Mills, Iowa. For more information, visit lakemillsiowa.com.
And now for the calendar of events. Enjoy Faribault Heritage Days from June 16th through the 19th. Highlights include a gingerbread craft show, soapbox derby, and plenty of music and food. For more information, visit faribaultheritagedays.com. And if you missed the Mason City Band Festival, you can still catch up with marching good music at the Harry Wagner Marching Band Festival in Owatonna, Minnesota on June 19th. The parade begins at noon and ends in Central Park. For more information, call 507-451-3103. And the Pelican Breeze is back in action on Albert Lee Lake. Enjoy Friday night pizza cruises or a leisurely ride on a Sunday afternoon. For more information, visit pelicanbreeze.org. If you have an event to share with our viewers, log on to KSMQ and post it today. Next week on Cities on the Move, we revisit an old favorite episode that originally aired in Season 2. We met Karen Nelson, who was a soon-to-be graduate looking for employment in the area. We also took a look at movie making in Forest City, Iowa. And we visited with Britta Langowski to learn about candy making. Please join us Tuesday, June 22nd at 6:30 p.m. on KSMQ for another edition of Cities on the Move. And don't forget to tune in Tuesday, June 29th for the next 1-hour Town Hall special. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Good night.
Production of this program is made possible in part through a grant from the Blandin Foundation.